in New York, like everybody, like it's, I don't know, they love to make fun of, their sports teams, the businesses, like, any businesses on Wall Street, BlackRock, all that stuff, right? It's like very, like we love making fun of that stuff.
Yeah.
However, I've found that like as a transplant, when I make fun of New York, then everybody turns on me a little bit.
Oh, really?
It
Because
seems
you're
like,
not like from there.
yeah, they're like, go back to Ohio. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I will. I'm like, well, I'm sorry.
Nate, what's up, man? Thanks for coming on.
Yes, Ryan, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. I just got in right from the airport.
Yeah, dude, coming right from the airport. I think that's so cool. We were just talking about this, but like before you came on, like, it's like everybody's different with their prep, and you were like, let's do it. Like I'm gonna come straight from the airport before I even go to my hotel. You're staying at a friend's house?
Staying at a friend's place, yeah, which is cool. I grew up in. I don't know if you know, I'm from Columbus, Ohio originally.
Yeah, I heard.
So a lot of the big pipeline from Columbus to Chicago. So
Okay.
I know I've got some friends here, and Ohio State also plays Northwestern this weekend, Wrigley Field. Ooh. So I'll be going to the game. Got people.
Did you
in
set
town.
that up? Because is that how were you talking to your agent? Were you I need to
didn't.
be in Chicago?
I didn't, but maybe he was like, hey, I'm going to score some bonus points with Nate, and we're going to make a whole weekend out of this. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm pumped to be back. Like I said, I've got some friends in town too, so it'll be cool.
Cool. Well, I think I saw on your bio or whatever that we have up that you play, like you were like, maybe you opened for someone at the Chicago Theater.
I did. I opened for Tim Dillon last year at Chicago Theater in June.
Oh, sweet.
2023, yeah. So that was, and still to this day, like that was my biggest probably stand-up moment, I would say. Like, because what does that seat? Like,
it's like 2,000 or 3,000. I don't even know exactly.
I think it's over. I think I think Tim said it was close to 3,500 or something.
Yeah, actually, I think it's over 3,000.
Which, by far the biggest audience I've performed in front of. And I had done some other theaters with him, but that one was, and it's a Chicago theater. Like it's world famous.
It's the feel in there. It's the history of it. It's like, it's one of the ones that, you want to. I'm never angry when like someone comes to the Den, like Brad Williams was like he came to the Den the last 2 years, and we called him up this year. We're like, Brad, are you coming back? He's like, no, dude, I'm sorry, I'm going to the Chicago Theater, and I'm not like fuck you. Like I'm like, okay, right, of course, like you got to do that, right? It's like a I don't know,
graduation almost. Like you graduate from into like the theater, I guess. Part of it, like. I don't know. Obviously it takes a while to get there. So, maybe one day. Maybe one day we'll be doing this podcast again, and I'll be saying I'm doing the theater. We'll see.
Totally. No, that must have felt cool. Because you're still like pretty early on in your career, so to feel that stage, like how long have you been doing stand-up?
Yeah. So I just passed 4 years of doing this. So that was last June. Definitely. Very early into it. Like it's kind of worked out. Like Tim had seen my stuff online. We met in person and stuff, and he started bringing me on the road and whatnot. But yeah, I guess like you just have to like rip the Band-Aid off a little bit and be like, well, here's my best, 15, 20 minutes or whatever in front of 3,500 people. And so it was, I will say doing stuff like that early on, I know it's like not the regular path, but I feel like it did help me. Like it kind of accelerated my growth a little bit because it's just like, I don't know, opening for someone, especially in front of a lot of people, it's just like a harder gig, Yeah, I'd imagine there was a significant amount of pressure with that. Like, hey, I gotta make sure this audience is ready for Tim when he comes out. Well, yeah, and it's so funny because my act is pretty different from his, which is probably why it's like kind of the opposites attract thing, which is probably why we think we're like, he thinks I'm very funny. I think he's very funny. Like it's probably why we like each other's stuff. But like again, it's just when you're performing in front of somebody else's audience, you just have to adjust. And like I said, being newer into stand up, I hadn't, I'd mostly been in front of like local crowds at whether it's New York or LA or wherever I was performing, but
Right.
not as much, hey, everyone's here to see him. Like,
Right.
you know.
Right. So that's interesting though. I never thought about it like that in terms of like booking and pairing, like your styles are very different. How do you, like, that makes sense to me. Whereas like a different style, cause I would think maybe you just do something like have two people that are like similar energy, similar style, but that actually makes a lot of sense to me. How are you guys different in your comedy styles?
I guess like I am more, I would say I'm just kind of more reserved with my like demeanor and whatnot. I come from like a sports background. I like to make like jokes about sports. I know like Tim is obviously very big on current events. So, he's from Long Island. He's got, a lot more like that's just like New York energy versus like, I'm very much more like Midwest Ohio energy. And I've learned to kind of lean into that because even now that I've been doing stand up in New York for several years, it's like I can't even fake it. Like if I try to be like a Long Islander who yells at people and picks on the audience, like I'm just not that type of person. So I've tried to, I don't know, lean into
Got it.
the Midwest boy in me.
No, it makes a lot of sense to me, actually. Like I was gonna say, I mean, when we were first looking at you and booking and stuff, we were watching some of your clips and like, one of the things that stood out to me is like, you definitely use sarcasm a lot in your comedy, and sarcasm can be that. A lot of times comedians can use sarcasm in more of like a scathing way, in a way that like actually like it's funny for people listening, but if you're the one that it's kind of like, if you're the butt of the joke, like in a way it can be like, I don't know if I like that. Whereas like what we found with listening to your comedy was like, even if it was something that like reminded me of me or something, it was kind of making fun of it, it was like it made me laugh at it, at myself. You know what I mean? Like, which is, I think, a cool.
Yeah. I try to be like, I am definitely kind of self-deprecating on stage a little bit, but like, I can't even, like if I like make fun of someone in the audience, I almost have to like apologize to them. I'm like, I'm sorry guys, I'm kidding. It's a comedy show. They're like, dude, you don't have to do that. Like, we know, like we paid for you to roast us. Like this is not, like, why are you apologizing?
That's hilarious.
That's how it goes.
It's that Midwest in you, man.
I know. I can't get rid of it, dude. I've adapted a little bit to the New York life, like the bluntness of just kind of the New York attitude, but yeah, I think it at the heart.
Yeah, it's almost like you have the intelligence of a New Yorker. Like you have the insight. You're able to see those like those things, those ignorances in people, those things that you can point out and kind of make fun of, or in businesses or whatever. But at the same, then you're stuck with this like kind, like Midwestern quality.
I know. I'm like, do I like? And it's funny. Like sometimes I just don't know what to lean into. Like I'm like, do I do more of like the, like, I don't know. I'm like, do I try to lean into the New York aspect of it? Do I try and be harsher about? Because like in New York, like everybody, like it's, I don't know, they love to make fun of their sports teams. The businesses, like, any businesses on Wall Street, BlackRock, all that stuff, right? It's like very, like, we love making fun of that stuff.
Yeah.
However, I've found that, like, as a transplant, when I make fun of New York, then everybody turns on me a little bit.
Oh, really? Because you're not, like, from there.
Yeah, they're like, go back to Ohio. And I'm like, yeah, I will. I'm like, I will. I'm sorry. Like, I'll go back. Like,
but you make fun of Ohio plenty, too, don't you?
I do. You almost have to. Like, I will say, like, I mean, listen, I love being from the Midwest. I love going back home. It's great to visit and stuff. But Ohio has also just become an internet meme at this point. Yeah. Like people, it's just like the butt of every joke. I feel like people are just like, it happened to my buddy in Ohio. Like that, you just see that comment on
just
TikTok
weird stuff happens.
Just like Ohio. Weird stuff, right? It's Ohio and Florida. Those are the big two.
Yeah.
That so. You have to lean into it, but it's funny because when I go home and do shows in Ohio, they love it when I make fun of them.
Yeah,
I call them out.
I think people like I was saying, like that was the biggest thing that kind of hit me about a lot of your stuff. But I think in comedy in general right now, it's like I feel like people want to laugh at themselves. a little bit, you know? It's like, I mean, that's part of it for me. Like, I don't need to just laugh at someone else, you know? I actually want to be made fun of a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and it too, like, again, too, when I'm making fun of the Ohio, the Midwest people, like, I'm also making fun of myself because that I grew up there. And that's like, those are my people, the people who go to water parks.
Yeah.
And people who, you know, go to amusement parks and
Totally.
take vacations
What was
to Lake
that?
Erie.
I saw one skit you did about like the Ohio dude in his 40s. He was like packing his lunch for work and just going through his ritual. It was like something. It was like really important to him to schedule his lawn mowing like on an opposite day of his like neighbors.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so that was. I know what video you're talking about. It was I did the parody of American Psycho, the movie.
Oh yeah.
If you've ever seen it. So I did the morning routine, but instead of like, you
Oh
know,
yeah,
investment banker on Wall Street, it's a Midwest guy.
Yeah.
So that's like, you know, he's like 27 years old, has 4 kids.
Oh right, 27
He's like 27, has 4 kids, lives in a house, you know, mows the lawn. Like, obviously it's all exaggerated, but the amount of people who resonated with that, I thought it was great.
Yeah, people. I did kind of like, you know. I thought that was awesome. To jump back to Tim Dillon just a little bit, because I want to. I find him like he's like such a great comedian, man. Like, so I would love to have him here. He's kind of wouldn't need to play a venue this size, but what did you find like? What do you find great about his comedy?
You know, Tim is just always. I mean, he like. Speaks his mind. You know, he's not afraid to, you know, touch certain boundaries or areas without, you know, crossing the, like, he's very, very good at walking the line, I think, which is kind of like where I think the best comedy is. You know, it's right at the edge, and that's kind of what people pay to see. They want to pay to hear stuff and talk about stuff that maybe you can't do at work. Yeah. Or even at home. And so he's just so good at that, and is, you know, was a mentor for me in the very, you know, those early stages of my career, just kind of walking me through like the difference between like doing clubs, because I've done club venues with him, you know, where we do like 6-7 shows in a weekend, and then also theaters, and like, all right, theaters, the pacing's different. This is, you know, this is maybe had a better way to go about your set, whatever. Like, so yeah, that's stuff I admire.
Yeah.
Of him.
Yeah, I loved, like, I've seen some stuff of his crowd work too.
It's great.
And some of his crowd work, oh man. There's this one I saw recently where he was like, I think he asked somebody in the audience, like a typical thing if you're doing crowd work, like, what do you do? You know, and the guy was like, he's like, I own a development firm.
Oh, I have seen this video. Yeah.
And he's like, oh shit. He's like, how old are you? The guy's like, 24. Yeah. And he's all like bravado about it. And from there, Tim just like goes off on like a 10-minute like tirade. He creates this whole backstory about this, because he turns out he's like, what? You just started it on your own? Like, you don't have any like partners or family? He's like, well, my dad. Yeah. And then it just goes into this, that he takes that and just like, he just goes. And then you see images, like he's talking about images of this kid, like this 24-year-old, like he works out of his basement at home, and he's like jerking off and then playing video games. And then he goes to the Zoom meeting and his dad's running. And like,
I mean, he's so good at ranting. Like, and again, man. He will not apologize to that person for just tearing into him on stage, which again is very funny.
Totally.
So yeah, doing the road with him was awesome.
That's so great. So like he found you?
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I think that's just like how it works a lot these days. Yeah. Regardless if it's other comedians or even like bookers or whoever, like things just get passed around on the internet, and you just never know who it's gonna reach.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm always like mindful of that. You know, like not that I'm like ever thinking of, oh, I wonder if so and so sees this, but like I think now that I've been doing this a few years, like I'm trying the stuff that I put out, I try to make sure it's, you know, quality, or at least I think it's funny. It's not as much like a rinse and repeat like it was in the early stages back when like TikTok was first starting. I feel like everybody was just, you know, making like short 30-second videos, And then now it's just kind of evolved into like some of these are like full sketches.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just like interesting to see. Like I go back and watch my content from like 2021 and I like cringe. I'm like, I cannot believe that people thought this was even remotely funny.
I know. I hear that a lot. Like, of course. Like, I guess that's probably the way it should be, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, no. I think I would be disappointed if I looked back and was like, I need to do this again.
Yeah.
I need to bring back this like super basic idea from 2021. Like I'm glad that I've left that in the past.
Yeah. But is that how it's going now on TikTok, where it's like it's almost like full like longer sketches like people are putting together? Is that getting super competitive on TikTok?
It's definitely getting out there, more so now. I think that what also seems to be going viral on TikTok though is just a bunch of just dumb shit. Like, a lot of pets. If your pet does something stupid, that gets 5 million views, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it seems like TikTok is pushing just kind of like they're still pushing like comedy and stuff. A lot of it's crowd work, right, for stand-up clips, and crowd work's great. A lot of people have found success from that. But as far as like just like videos that make you laugh, like sketches for sure, but then like I don't know, just a lot of like people doing dumb stuff, falling off a roof, like a cat, jumping off whatever, like a dog giving you like a weird side eye, like that stuff will get 5 million views, and then you'll put out something you think is really funny and just
nothing. Nothing.
Just like scroll, like waiting for that number to go up, and it doesn't go up.
Yeah.
Like,
do you think that a lot of those like those random things, like people falling, or like a it's like what America's Funniest Home Videos
that's
used
literally
to
what
be.
it is. Yeah.
But do you think those people are like trying to create those things, or do you think that those are just, there's enough people that are now posting that just probability wise there's always going to be something like that, and that's what people want to see?
That it might be. It's probably a mix of both, because I like when TikTok first started, I think like people were maybe nervous to like put stuff on the internet. They were like, well, I don't know, because it is kind of nerve-wracking. I mean, it's something I'd never done before. It took a little getting used to, being like, this is like out there for the world to see. And I think over the years it's become so saturated now. People are getting viral for so many different things. It's just like, oh yeah, I'll put, my dog got in a fight with my other dog that's half its size, like I'll put that on the internet, and like, right. Sure enough,
suddenly it's
viral.
Like millions and millions of views.
Yeah.
But like, so a lot of those people, like, they're not doing anything with that though. It's not like they're part of their business. Like for you, like this is part of your, like the things that you post and you do all tie into like your business.
It's true. Right. I'm like, now I'm having a crisis moment here. Man, I need to step it up. But you're right though. That's like, and again, like, I mean, it's interesting because I started this when I was 24. So I was I would say I was later to the game. Most people, I feel like when they do entertainment, they kind of know early on. I went through corporate America. I was a business major in college. I worked at Salesforce and consulting. So I guess I kind of come from that business background, like that mind. That's kind of how my mind works anyway. Is it's like, if this does well, then that means that more eyeballs are on me, which means more people who are willing to come, buy tickets to a show or subscribe to long form content. If I try and maybe launch a podcast or do some type of sketch show or whatever, like, yeah, you do have to kind of treat it like a business a little bit. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's really cool. You come from that kind of background. That's interesting. Like, what made you? I mean, you were there. Yeah, you graduated. You were like what, like 22?
Yeah, I graduated 22. Yeah.
And then went straight into like corporate.
Yeah, straight into the corporate world. And I did. I worked at Salesforce. That was my first job. I had done
a big company. I recognize the name.
It is big tech.
Big tech company, like
not
huge.
Not a lot of fun people though.
Really?
It depends. It's big enough to where I'm sure people will find, have a good experience there, but a lot of Silicon Valley people, a lot of workaholics.
It's really cool that you have that perspective, that you bring that to your comedy so much too, because it like for someone like me who I have a brick and mortar business. I started on my own. I've never been in corporate. Before that, I was like you know, doing artistic stuff and trying to, you know, become an actor and stuff, and working at, you know, waiting tables and stuff like that, or whatever I could do to make money, you know. So I have no perspective other than like TV and movies of like what that world is actually like and who those, you know, what those people are like. But watching some of your stuff, it like gives you a little taste of that. Like,
yeah, and I got to be honest, as the longer that like now I'm 4 years out of that, like the longer that I go, the more I'm like, am I still like in touch with this? Like, do I need to?
Yeah. Do I need to get back in there for a little?
Yeah, that's the thing. Do I need to pick up a part-time, like go undercover, get a part-time job at Salesforce again, and just be like, okay, no, they're still doing Zoom meetings that could have been an email. Okay, it's good to know we're still doing those. Like, that joke still works. Like, I don't know. Like, it's but yeah, coming from that background, I don't know. There's just a certain kind of, I guess, professionalism that it teaches you. And then I started like getting into entertainment. And I was like, oh, like anything goes. Like, you know, like, I mean, it's kind of, it's way less predictable, obviously. So it again took some adjusting, you know. Yeah. Just.
Did it give you like a certain kind of discipline? Like because yeah, I mean, now that I think about it, like most people in your position, like came from a grind, a hustle of like, you know, maybe didn't even finish college. Like, you know, like I don't want to stereotype too much, but like, you know, didn't have that kind of like real, like structured work environment.
Yeah, I mean,
and like high powered people that you're working around, you know, and learning from in some ways.
Right. And, well, I mean, and like you said, like I think most people in entertainment, whether they, you know, maybe they did go to college and, you know, they may have gotten a business degree as well, or a degree in something else, but maybe I feel like most of them knew that they wanted to do something creative with it. You know, for me, like, it was never even a thought. Like, I, you know, played sports my whole life, played competitive golf for years and years, and that was like my main focus, even like probably through my freshman year of college. I was still doing that pretty competitively. And so, yeah, I just started like posting videos on TikTok during the pandemic because I was living at home and I was bored. And I didn't like my job. I was like, this sucks. Yeah. And so, I mean, I don't know, but I think to go back to your original point, you asked if there's a certain type of professionalism that comes with it. Definitely, or like structure, because especially when you're new in corporate America, you do have to meet deadlines. You have to meet goals. You have to meet quotas, whatever your position is. Like, I mean, there were definitely some times where like I would give some presentations and be like, that didn't go very well. Like, you know, I'm like a little worried about my one-on-one with my manager next week. Like, we're going to go over, why did I botch that PowerPoint slideshow? Like, which is so funny because that's like literally what we're doing, right? It's like, I thought we did these in high school. And then now all of a sudden I'm getting paid to make PowerPoints. Like,
yeah, you're actually doing them. It's funny because it's like, what actually becomes useful for companies like that, right? It's like, okay, you guys are, because you make fun of like how many meetings you have and like how many PowerPoint presentations, and then like when the deadline comes, what actually happens that pushes you guys through to your deadlines, right? Is it's like probably the same as everybody else is like, oh shit, we got to get this done. Like, fuck the presentation. Like, let's just put this shit together and get it out.
I mean, that's literally what it is. It's like a high school project is like what it felt like. Or like a college assignment you're trying to turn in by midnight, you know? And, but like you said, like, I don't know. Like, I remember doing my job. I'm like, I'm not generating revenue. Like, why? You're like, how important is this to the company? I can tell you firsthand. I'm like, oh, like, no, the company would more than survive without me. Like, tomorrow. So,
yeah, you know, I think about that sometimes with some of these jobs. I had a good friend who was in like finance, and like I don't know exactly what he did, but I mean, he spent a lot of time at like football games and like courting people, and like, and he had a massive salary. I remember it blowing my mind. Like, you know, it's just like, how, this is when I was younger. I was like, how do you make, I mean, this is an immense salary. And it's like, I'm like, well, okay, so who did you like bring on to the company to like get them to invest or whatever, and like and he's just like, yeah, I didn't really land too many people, and I'm just like, how does this even make sense?
No,
I'm like, how do you keep going with this?
There's got to be someone tied up in his basement or something like that is. But no, it's true. Like you're always. I mean, yeah, I guess you will see some of those people where you're like, I mean, like how did you? You're right. Like this guy probably has a mansion, drives a Ferrari or something, and you're like, you don't even do any work. Like, where is the work? Where's the money coming from?
Maybe it's someone else in the company, and it's just so big that it's like, some people can get in there, and
he doesn't have a shady side hustle like a car wash,
laundromat.
Yeah,
right.
None of that.
No. He doesn't. He actually quit after a while because he was just like. He gave up. I remember talking to him about it. He was just like, man, this is not making me happy like this. So,
man, dude,
he let it all go.
Going to football games and making millions of dollars
sucks.
I know.
What
a chore. I mean,
flying around, just partying with people and making them feel good. I guess that's the right. I guess that's the game in a lot of arenas. Like just make people feel good, have fun with them, and then maybe they'll do business with you,
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's exactly what it is. When people, like, I don't know. I know, like I said, I played competitive golf for years and whatnot, but, like, it's true that, like, I think most people, at least in whatever, like, the space that I worked in or, like, even just, I don't know, could be finance, could be, economics, whatever, real estate, like, all these people want to do is just go play golf with their buddies during the day. Like, that's all anybody wants to do anyway. So you may as well just, like, go do it. And then, somewhere between the 7th and 10th hole, if business comes up, it comes up. Yeah. Like, that's totally. And then if your guy's playing well, maybe the deal's easier to make, I don't know.
Is that? I feel like that's like a prerequisite to like big business, like being able to play some golf.
Yeah, no, it's like being a good golfer in the office is like a coveted role.
Yeah,
I mean, people probably keep their jobs just because of that. They're like, actually, we don't like the work you're doing. Go to the range. And like, I know it's noon on a Wednesday. We don't want you. You're taking away from our actual hardworking team. We need you to prepare for the scramble this Saturday.
Dude, I think I'm gonna enroll my kid in some golf classes now, because like just as like a hedge or something, like, hey, if you want to do well in business, make sure you're pretty good at golf, and like they might keep you around just because of that.
Start them young.
Yeah. So how is that, like, when did you start playing golf as a junior, and like how what's that whole thing like as a kid?
Yeah, I mean, golf was interesting too because I got into that late. I didn't really start till probably 8th or 9th grade, and I played pretty much every other sport through then. Baseball, basketball, football, soccer. Like I did all of it, and then in high school I decided just to focus on baseball and golf. And golf, the junior circuit is interesting because I felt like I was a pretty serious baseball player too. I guess I was taking it seriously, I should say. I mean, it's not like I had any D1 offers just kind of stacked up on my porch. But I really liked it. Like, baseball's still probably my favorite sport to follow. So there were golfers that I feel like that's what they did. They were, their dads were country club guys. They grew up country club guys. And they'd been playing in tournaments since they were 5 and 6 years old.
Right.
Nobody else in my family golfs. I just got into it by playing with buddies. So I would play in like some summer tournaments and whatever before like the season and whatnot. But it was never like the path that guys you see on tour take. Those guys are the ones doing the full junior circuit, doing the junior amateur championship, doing all the qualifiers and stuff. I didn't really pursue that as much because I was also traveling for summer baseball, playing in summer baseball tournaments. So
right.
And that's the thing. I like looking back and I'm like, maybe I should have just picked one because summer is a very important time for both of those sports.
Yeah.
And trying to commit to both was probably too difficult. Yeah.
I mean, it's the biggest conversation if you have kids and they play sports that you talk that, like, as a dad we talk about. It's like okay. Because everything revolves around, like, not everything, but if your kids are into sports, it's like a lot of your social life is tied up into that, and if you're in a sports competitive high school, you're not even going to play if you don't pick one.
Oh, absolutely.
Which sucks, man, because it's
Tough.
like, let's say you're an awesome baseball player, but like, you play golf, maybe you play basketball, a little basketball too. Unless you drop one of them, there's going to be some kid that's got everything that you've got, started younger, and drops everything else and focuses on it. So how are you gonna overcome that?
1,000%. I mean, looking back on it, I'm like, why did I even waste time playing football? Like, I'm 5'11", maybe 160 soaking wet. That was never in the cards to begin with. My parents, maybe it's funny because my dad played college football, so maybe that's why they let me keep playing. But maybe it'd been nice to be like, hey Nate, maybe let's not play this year. Maybe let's start looking at alternative options. Even baseball too. Like, I know you don't necessarily have to be big to play baseball, but like you see the
density
guys
helps,
in the league,
right?
Even if they're 5'8", they're 5'8", 180. They're stock. Like again,
that thickness, that density like helps a lot for sure.
I'm hitting a double at most. I don't know. I'm not hitting many triples. Definitely not hitting any over the fence. So it's just, and even I was a pitcher too, and it's like, hey man, I know you're in high school. Maybe you're throwing low 80s or whatnot, but that's not. Like you said, you might get some innings. You might get some innings on your competitive high school team, maybe. Mm-hmm. But it's not going anywhere after that.
Yeah.
It's just not going.
And that's hard, is it? Because you don't have that perspective as a kid.
No, you're just having fun with it. But now I'm like, why was I such a moron?
You almost need it's like you almost need someone to pull you aside and be like, hey, maybe either focus on this if you really, really love it, but know the odds are against you. Like, you're not going to play college even. You're not, or you might, but it's not going to, it's maybe a D3 or something,
right.
Right. Or, you're not, the odds that you go pro are like almost zero. Just want to be upfront with you, kid,
Try saying that to a 9-year-old.
I know, you can't, man. It's like, I totally get that from myself and from watching, my son play basketball, and he's like, talking about like D1 and like, stuff like that, which is, but that's the problem, right? You're like, as a parent, you're like, oh yeah, of course. I'm going to back my kid. Of course, man, you can do it. Hell yeah, you can do anything. It's like, and then you're like, wait a minute, is that the right advice?
Yeah,
is it really?
You watch him go like 1 for 7 from the field with 3 turnovers. You're like, maybe we should see if he likes science.
Yeah, right. But it's tempting as a parent too, because you're also just like, what do you prioritize? Like, you have to have the wherewithal to be like, dude, you got to do your homework too, Like, and you want to just be like, let's go to practice, work harder, like this is more fun. Like,
how old is your son?
He's 12.
12, yeah, so he's right there. He's about to enter that high school phase where it starts getting real.
Yeah.
One way or the other.
Yeah, totally. And even for him, like there's this thing called like a feeder program for his high school it. So he's in like 7th grade, but like it's hard to get into. And it's like, that is like a big deal for them, is like to try to get into that already. And it's like, just to get into that, you gotta be like, playing a lot.
Dude,
for a 12-year-old.
Crazy that they're weeding people out at 12. Yeah. Like, that's crazy. They're like trying to figure out who's got any talent, like before people hit their growth spurt.
Yeah, totally. No, I don't know why they do that, because they actually do say that it's like that. It all changes in high school anyway, because like you said, like, look, some kids that are dominating when they're in 7th, 8th grade are gonna, like, they're not gonna be dominating 2 years from now. Maybe they just hit their growth spurt earlier or whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you saw that in baseball, like,
oh yeah, and football too, especially. There were some monsters in like 5th, 6th, 7th grade football who by 10th grade weren't even playing anymore.
Yeah.
And
because
you're like,
it's almost a disadvantage, right? Because like, if that happens to you, you're like 7th grade, you have a beard and you're like you're just dominating everyone. You're like a fully grown man, It's so interesting how like it's like, that is just like human nature. Like, that's how the body works. Yeah.
Like, it just, you people like joke about it. You hear rumors like, oh, that person, like, they'll burn out by whatever this year, and then you like literally watch it happen in real time. And you're like, dude, 3 years ago, that guy like ran me over like on his way to the end zone. Like I would, like stepped on me like I don't know. Like it was.
You still have his like footprint in your chest.
Exactly. I'm like, it still hurts. And it's, but now, they don't, a lot of them don't even play anymore. It's like, I don't know. I think like you said, with competitive high schools, you really do have to take it seriously.
Yeah.
Like I went to a big public high school where a lot of kids played college sports after that at some level. So like if that wasn't your goal, it was almost like, what are you doing this for?
Yeah.
You're playing this for fun? Like what's wrong with you? Like,
right.
Like go home. Like that's kind of,
Yeah.
So
at some point you need like someone to tell you, or you need to figure it out yourself, like the sort of the decision making / business aspect of it. Cause it is like at some point it's like, how much time, money do I invest in this? And as a kid, you can't know that, right? Like that's worth it for me for my life,
Right, and that's thinking like probably when I was benching 135 as a sophomore should have been a good indicator for me.
Right, just to start diversifying a little bit, like right, have fun with it, but like yeah, go back to science, like
maybe focus on your homework tonight. Like we don't
totally. But I was like trying to be a great tennis player when I was that was my sport. So like but I do attribute like any little thing that I've achieved in my life, I actually do feel like the pursuit of that, like trying to improve and like the drive for that and thinking like, oh, I could be pro when I could never, because I started when I was like 12 or something. Yeah. So like they're just like, I didn't learn until I was like 18, 19, like, even though I reached a really solid level, and I was like, playing some tournaments overseas and stuff, and nice. Like, little small prize money tournaments and stuff. But like I never, and then once I started doing that made me realize like, oh, okay, I'm 18, 19, I'm playing 15-year-olds here that I can barely beat. Yeah. In like Spain, on clay, and it's like, and I realized then it was like, okay, I could go to college and play maybe a smaller D1 or like maybe a good, really great D2 or D3 school. But like, it wasn't until then that I realized, but I don't feel like all the work that I put in, for like 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day from like, 13, 14 to 18 or 9, I don't feel like it was wasted, because it was like, I feel like anything I've done in business, I learned like with the mindsets and the pursuits that I learned trying to attain something.
Absolutely. I mean, I totally agree. Like, I know we joke about it, but I don't have regrets from spending that much time doing, sports
doing all
that,
this stuff, like
football didn't, like, right. In the grand scheme of things, right. It wasn't ever going to be a path for me, but I don't know. There's just like you said, there's life experiences from it. Like, and it's just funny too, because like being able to do stuff like that, like even I'm looking from my perspective, right? Like I'm trying to tell jokes, I'm trying to create content that people resonate with. Like the fact that I have done that at some level, I can now make like material about that makes sense. Like I'm not lying.
Totally.
You might look at me and be like, he's never played a down of football. And I get that. Like, so it's like, guys, I understand. But it's like, I feel comfortable, relating with those people who have done that, because I'm like, I've done it, and I'm trying to, like, my thing is when I'm making content, like, I'm trying to almost be your friend, you know what I mean? Like your buddy who makes videos or whatever. Like, oh, I lived that exact moment, like that's fun for me,
Right. No, I mean, when you look at it and what you bring to the table as a comedian and as an artist, you got a shit ton of value out of like all the sports that you play, because you're connecting to so many people from that perspective, and being able to make not just jokes about it, but like connect with people about it. They get where you're coming from, as well as your business perspective. Those are two unique, things that you're just like owning and like, using and with that like authentic way that you do it, you know, seemingly authentic, you know.
It's like, guys, I swear, I swear I've put pads on. Like,
yeah, you don't look like it. Like I would definitely not pin you as like as a football, even baseball. Like I'm like,
right.
Like golf, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Right, that's the only one where you're like, okay, now he's not lying anymore. Like, all right.
Oh, I see. You're a golfer.
Yeah, golf and tennis. They're like, yeah, we could see that. Basketball, even. That's the one thing too. I still play. I have this like funny bit. I kind of had to turn this into a stand-up bit because I still play a lot of competitive basketball in like New York and stuff. And you know, I'll play on the blacktops. And one day, like. And, you know, I know what I'm getting myself into when I go play on the blacktops and stuff like that. Because I've played...
What are the blacktops? For the outdoor court?
Yeah, just like outdoor courts, you know, the park, stuff like that. Yeah. And it's very common in New York, you know, in the summer and stuff.
What's that one in Greenwich?
It's the Cage.
The Cage.
West
yeah,
Fourth.
yeah.
I've played there. Yeah,
nice.
It's just a different... I mean, obviously, like I said, you know what you're getting into. That's... yeah, you know... You know, not a lot of people who look like me on that court. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but there's like one time I went to go play on the blacktops up in Harlem because people said that's where you gotta go. That's where the good competition is. And I was like new to New York. I lived in the Upper East Side. I'm like, oh, it's not that far. And I get trash talked quite a bit when I play basketball. Yeah. But the worst one, this was like the worst time I'd gotten trash talked. I'm not even on the court yet. I'm walking up the court. And one of the guys looks at me, he goes, buddy, it's all good. Whole Foods is just down the block if you just keep walking that way. And
you're like, okay.
I was like going there after that. I was like, yeah, I don't have a comeback. Like, I'm a rewards member. So like, you just roasted the shit out of me. I have nothing to say. But
how do you do though? Are you all right? Can you hang?
Yeah, I can hang, but it's just funny because again, they like, you know, when you play with these guys, like a lot of times basketball, they give you nicknames, right? Like LeBron's the King, Kobe's Mamba. They called me Almond Milk for like 2 hours. That's awesome. And it was like you know, so it was great. It was a nice humbling moment. But you have to earn your respect on the basketball court, like a lot of times in those areas. So it's fun. I mean, when I was working at Salesforce too, I did like a post-grad program in Indianapolis because that is like their second largest hub. I don't know why it is, but I was like, yeah, I'll go do this for a few months, whatever. And I got a membership at the Y inner city, downtown Indianapolis, which is Indiana's home of basketball, right? So that was probably a good intro for me to prepare me for the New York scene. I think. Yeah. Downtown Indy, you know, I'd go there after work on like the weeknights and stuff, and that was pretty similar to what the New York scene can be like. So
nice. Yeah, that's awesome.
You gotta learn to hang a little bit. Yeah. But like I know I'm unassuming and stuff, but that's why I get mad. Like when I don't get mad actually, but like I'll make videos, you know, about sports, about like baseball or whatever. Mm-hmm. I made a video earlier this year making fun of the Mets, the New York Mets or whatever, and some people in the comments are like, this theater kid doesn't know anything about ball. I responded to one guy, and I don't ever do this, but I responded and I go,
I'll meet you on the court.
I told him this. I said, listen, I've forgotten more ball than you'll ever know. I said that to him, and I'm like, you probably shouldn't be interacting with these people, but I did.
Yeah, isn't that like the first rule is like don't engage?
Yeah, I never do that, but that's the one thing that I was like, I'd rather you tell me my comedy sucks than say I'm a theater kid. It's like the biggest insult you give me is saying I don't know about sports.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's great, man. No, I think it's you know, influences your comedy in such a great way. And there's so many people out there that can connect with it. And I mean, I'm a big proponent of sports because like, fuck, it really does teach you how to like go after something, you know, like nothing else. I mean, you have to like focus yourself to improve.
Well, even like honestly, even today, that's why like I agree. Like I always like there being a goal to reach. Mm-hmm. So I love like even now, like, listen, I still play golf, but not nearly at the level that I was playing at. But I will still tee it up at the New York Amateur Qualifier every year just because I'm like, I want to work towards this. Now, will I show up and shoot an 80 most of the time? I will. I will. Like, will I be 8, 9 strokes off the cut line? Probably. But I just need to work toward it. Like, even I just, like, I need it. I'm like, oh, I don't know. Maybe just, I'm like, I always tell myself, like, for one day, can you turn back the clock?
Yeah.
Can you turn back the clock and fire even par for just one day? And I haven't yet. I haven't yet in one of those
Do you get
tournaments.
close?
No. I mean, I haven't really been close yet, to be honest. It's tournament golf's different too. It's one of those things where if you're playing in a tournament once a year, you just can't expect that to be.
Of course.
I mean, because I don't even shoot like even par. Like I'm not even shooting that in many of the practice rounds that I'm playing these days. It's just not how it is anymore. So, it's just kind of this delusion, I think, that if you're a competitive athlete at some point, you're always going to have that delusion that you still got it.
Totally.
And eventually it's going to come
up.
up.
Oh, my God. Like delusions are good sometimes. They make you feel good sometimes.
They do.
Like, you can let yourself go there. I think I was probably, I got to admit, I probably never like talked about this or admitted to anyone, but there's thoughts that some people will have in their heads. I've certainly had them where it's like in my 30s, I'm like, just let myself imagine like, oh, what if I went back and started playing tennis again and I made the pro tour and and it's just like, it was just this random thing.
Every year during the Masters, I'm like, I'm going to win the U.S. Amateur next year. I'm going to be playing in this tournament. It's like, dude.
It's so far from possibility or reality.
I mean, literally not even in any universe.
Yeah, but to let yourself just have that like little daydream for a little bit, there's nothing wrong.
No, it's fun, and it brings you back. I'm a kind of a nostalgic person. It kind of brings you back to that time where you were thinking about those things all the time. Yeah. Thinking about playing on the biggest stages or achieving these goals or whatever, and it's like. I don't know. It's cool because it takes me out of the kind of the demanding creative space that I'm in. Because you can get very mentally burnt out from that. So it's nice to go blow off some steam, go play some golf, be like, hey, I'm playing in this tournament in a couple months. Let's go hit some balls to the range. Let's not, entertain this writer's block for another 2 hours. Let's go,
Man, that's so good that you've kept all that up. I feel like a lot of people, and I put myself in this category too, like eventually let go of the sports that they play just because they feel like it's not easy to find clubs or groups that like as an adult where you can play certain sports like baseball. Like how easy is it to get a baseball game together?
Yeah, that's
or get on a league that's like not crazy competitive just for fun, but also not like it's
not beer league.
Yeah, not beer league.
But it's also not, like you said.
Yeah. Like still competitive, but not like insane. Like
right. And that's the one thing too, especially with the one thing, basketball, like the two sports I still play a lot are basketball and golf. Golf, obviously fine. Not a whole lot of physical demand there. Basketball is the one where in the back of my mind, I'm like, hey, remember, you're not invincible. And the older that you get, the less invincible you become. So, there's always that in the back of my mind every time I lace it up. Is like, dude, please don't tear an ACL doing this.
Yeah.
Like, how lame would that be to be like, hey, guys, I got to cancel my shows for the next 2 months.
Totally.
Because whatever.
You're limping on stage.
Sprained I had a high ankle sprain or something because I played in my men's league Tuesday night.
It's a physical sport, too.
It is. I mean.
And there's always that one guy that just is like, going like way harder than you should.
Up in your grill, and you're like, listen, man, don't you have work in the morning? Like, you have a 401k now. Like, there are other things going on in your life. We don't need to be doing this at the YMCA on Wednesday at 7 p.m. We don't need to be doing that.
Yeah. Dude, tell me about your impersonations a little bit. Like, it seems like you're doing a lot of them. Like, why did you start doing impersonations? How did you get into that?
Yeah, so that's interesting. That is how I first started into comedy. We had this, it's so funny. We had this, this is actually how I first started into comedy. It's I got to give Salesforce some credit. I hate to do it. Evil fucking company. But while we were doing during COVID, right? I worked right when COVID started. That was when my job first started. That was my first first 2 months into the role. And it was like everybody was working from home for the first time. And so they were trying to find ways to make work fun, and they decided to do a talent show for this, this like recent grad cohort program that I was a part of. And I was like, yeah, I'll do the talent show. When I was growing up, I always I was always like good at impressions. I'd do them like, family members, my coaches, cartoon characters, like whatever. And I was like, I don't know. I just like messed around with them, and I decided to do them for this talent show. And I won the talent show. Not that it was like anything super impressive, or everyone was like, dude, you're so good at these voices. Like you should like put them on TikTok or whatever. And I was like, I don't know. Like, really? Should I do that? And then after like some time, like I would say like 4 or 5 months later of doing the job from home, I'm like, I hate this so much. I'm just going to start. I'm going to do it. I'm going to put stuff on TikTok. And I started posting just like, I look back at them and I cringe because it's very just basic hacky impressions.
Yeah.
But people, I guess, started to really like them. And that was what my act was for like a while. I was focused on the impressions. When I would get on stage, like at open mics, like when I was very first starting stand up, it was all impression based material, very hacky. Like,
but people love impressions.
They
I don't
do.
Know why? It's just like.
Well, that's what I was like. I look back and I'm like, why did you guys give me any sort of like? No, I should not be rewarded for this. But people love them, and I get it. They are fun and stuff like that. But eventually I decided like, because for a while it was like, oh, here's 6 celebrities as your waiter, or here's your doctor. And I was like, that's boring. Like, that's hacky. That's boring. Like, if you want to be serious about comedy and you still want, maybe you could still, because you're good at this, like you could still use it. I was like, all right, maybe try and see how like SNL does it. Could you make actual sketches with these impressions, or like videos where you're writing for the character a little bit more. You're creating like maybe you're having multiple characters interact with each other. So that is like something that over time I tried to do more of, because I felt like that was just better and more creative.
Yeah.
I never wanted to be the impressions guy.
Right, where it's just that. Now you've got your sketches a lot of times are incorporating a lot of different impersonations at once, like where they're interacting with each other and you're cutting it together. Right.
And I feel like that's just more fun it's more fun for me, and it's more fun for the audience. So it's interesting. I don't do them a ton on stage anymore, just because I feel like it's harder to weave. I will do them on stage if I can find a way to do it naturally. But yeah, I'm like, the days of setting up, like, could you imagine if Michael Cera was your doctor? Like, I was like, we don't need to be doing those jokes. I think it sound like that. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
That's not what I was ever trying to be. So, but yeah, that's really, it's funny because that's how it all started. I was just doing voices all the time. I mean, I'm talking like, I was doing like, I don't know, like characters from Shrek and stuff. Like, as a 24-year-old, I'm like, how did nobody else find this awful?
Damn. So how many impressions do you think you have, like, in your repertoire?
I mean, in my prime of 2022, when I was doing them all the time. It's funny because I don't practice them as much anymore, because I just feel like it's just kind of evolved since then.
Yeah.
If I have a funny idea, I'll work on them for like a week and, do it. But man, I mean, if you count back from all the videos I did, I probably would at least 50 to 100. I had to be. If you include all the cartoon characters that I try to do, and by the way, that doesn't mean they're all good.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're all good, but like, I would say if you scroll all the way back to the beginning, that number is probably over 50.
Wow.
I would say.
There's some that are like, it's strange when you're good at doing impersonations, because in a way I feel like you then start to look like the character or the person a little bit. Like I mean, I look at you and I'm just like, holy shit, you look like, if I'm thinking about you doing the Steve from Stranger Things guy, I'm like, you look exactly like this motherfucker.
Well, that's what everybody, like, I can't go get a single comment I can't go or make a single video on Instagram or TikTok. Now it's died down because everybody has already said it, but they're like, dude, you look like Joe Keery.
Yeah.
I'm like, get in line. Like, I know.
But you can't look like everybody.
You can't. Right? But
so
somehow
like,
I do.
You look like Andrew Garfield.
That's
too.
what everybody says.
If I think Andrew Garfield, I'm like, oh my God.
And they think I look like, I do like the Matthew Gray Gubler from Criminal Minds. I don't look anything like that guy.
Yeah.
But people will be like, you look like if Andrew Garfield and Matthew Gray Gubler had a baby. I'm like, I don't know. No, I don't. But like, you're right. I think it's the mannerisms. It's like the embodiment of it.
It's so weird. You have like a little piece of like all these different. And then whenever you say like Jesse Eisenberg or something, it's like, oh, I see it in your face.
And I'm like, no, I promise you, we look nothing alike.
Totally.
But we sound alike. I'll give you that. Yeah. We sound alike. Which is, that's where I just got to let the internet win there. You're never going to win that battle. Right. Not that I'm really even trying to fight it. It's just like funny.
No, but the conversation's going, and that's, I think, good.
It's good for engagement. If that's what you guys want to focus on, then I'm fine with it.
So where are you taking your stand up you got the sketch thing going online? I mean, is that what percentage of your time and energy goes towards that versus stand up versus whatever else you've got going on?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm starting to get into the point now where I'm trying to market myself more as a stand-up because now I've been doing it for a while. I opened for Tim. I feel like now my material is good enough to share. Like for a while there, I'm a pretty self-aware person. I feel like, and again, I wasn't going to put a lot of those hacky jokes that I was doing early on, like on the internet. Like I was just like, this isn't good enough. I want to wait till I'm good enough to start sharing stand-up. And now that I am, traveling for it more and doing my own shows, it's becoming more of my identity, and that's kind of what I'm hoping. So my goal now is like, these are my first round of headliner shows. So I'm filming them all. I'm going to start, putting a lot of footage out there and just kind of sharing it with people. And I think it's just about like perception of it. And so there's a lot of effort, a lot more time that goes into it now, I think. I mean, what would be nice is I'll still keep doing the sketches, but I think eventually if the stand-up content, clips from shows, crowd work moments, if that can kind of even out and it's a 50-50 split, I think that would put me in a pretty good spot. That's kind of what I'm going for, and be like, I still do the sketches, maybe that hopefully turn that into some acting roles, but I'm also like a stand-up comic. Like I want you guys to know that I do stand-up comedy.
Right.
So it's hard. It's not easy because a lot of these people have been following me from day one when I was doing Kermit the Frog voices. So they're like, really? Now he's doing, like, they don't even know that I do stand-up, or they're like not even that interested in it. So you have to
But maybe they are, and maybe they'll show, like when you come to their city, you get an opportunity to like I think that's like a really fun thing about stand-up. If you're also doing sketch, or you have like a podcast, or you're an actor, and you're doing movies and TV, it's like your fans have a chance to, if you're doing a meet and greet even, it's like they've even got a chance to say what's up, and chat with you for a little bit, whereas if you weren't doing stand-up at all, there wouldn't be any opportunities to do that.
Well, and I also view stand-up and I love stand-up, like it's great. I love making people laugh. But I also view that as like, that's a job, like that's a career. Being a sketch comedian on the internet, I'm like, you probably can't be doing that in your late 30s. You know what I mean? Like by the time, 10 years from now, if I'm still making Jesse Eisenberg impression videos, maybe time to wrap it up. Like maybe time to go back to Salesforce. Like, so that's how I always pictured it. It was like, if you can turn this into a live show, live performance that people will, pay money to see you, and turn this into your source of income, that is the goal.
And build that craft, because it's not easy, right? It's like, it's like
stand-up takes
so hard,
a long time. Yeah, I mean, it's really too, like, so I'm, like I said, I'm about 4 years in. I kind of look at it as, a lot of people say, it's kind of like a 7 to 10 year investment. You really don't know until that point where you can make the assessment of, can I do this long term? I've been doing this for 7, 8 years. Like, can I do this? Can I make a career out of this? Or am I still doing the same bar shows that I was doing 6, 7 years ago?
Right. Are you improving?
Are you building an audience? That's like the biggest thing these days with how fast the internet moves. It's like so many people have followers now. Like, it's not as special anymore. So it's about getting the followers you do have to really buy in.
Yeah. And people are starting younger. It's almost becoming a point where it's like everybody from a young age is like starting an Instagram account, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like by the time they're, leaving home, they have thousands and maybe tens of thousands of followers to use however they want in their business life, whatever
Right.
it is.
I think there was a survey I read that was like the number one desired role for Gen Z is content creator.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, and it makes sense, but there's no barriers to entry.
Yeah.
If you have a phone and you can download the apps, then you can put it all out there.
And you can start basically, I guess you're 13,
Yeah,
it's like, and
yeah.
people start younger than that, but it's
Sure.
like, yeah, I mean, honestly, like, why wouldn't that, like you said, like, why wouldn't that be the most appealing thing in the world? You don't answer to a boss, you're the boss,
Right, yeah.
like that would be something, I think a lot of people would aspire to.
Yeah, we'll see how that evolves over the next, again, probably like 10 years or so. Because I feel like it always changes. Like pendulum always kind of swings back and forth. Are people going to get sick of that? Are they going to be like, no, maybe this wasn't that interesting or as fun as I thought it would be? Is there going to be a new version of TikTok in 10 years? Probably.
Right. Yeah, something else. Hopefully craft. I mean, yeah, I think, things are getting saturated for sure. And you can find anything you're into, and a plethora of it.
Oh, there's a corner of the internet for everything. Like you can, because there are people like woodworking accounts, right? People who build stuff, like those account handymen, right?
Yeah.
I follow like a couple like handyman type of guys who just give like tips, and it's not even that I don't even own a house. None of them even apply to me. They're just fun to watch. I like watching you fix stuff and build stuff. These people have more followers than I'll ever have. Like it's crazy, but that's you can find and build an audience with pretty much
anything, right?
Anything.
No, totally. Our COO here, he loves fountain pens, and you'll actually get one today. You get a fountain pen. Well, hopefully you enjoy a fountain pen.
Appreciate that. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
It's a gift we give people the first time they come.
Love that.
Like he watches like fountain pen stuff. I didn't even know that existed,
I didn't know
but
that
like,
existed.
but yeah, he's in that corner, and there's a whole world there. But to your stand up and improving, like, what do you think it is that you need to improve the most about your stand up?
It's a great question because again, it's a marathon. Like I said, been doing this 4 years now, so it's like just kind of being aware of what has improved since year one, what needs to get better by year whatever. Like I said, 7 to 10. I think what I want to improve on, what I've been trying to do a lot more lately this year is talk about stuff on stage that I like. It's passionate to me. I used to just try and like come up with things that I think are funny, like, certain scenarios or whatever. But now it's more like, okay, what do you like? Well, I like sports. I like history. I like pop culture. So talk about that stuff on stage. Like nothing makes me happier than if I can get a room full of people laughing about a joke that I made about Ohio State football or about Napoleon, or like I have a joke about like, the Vietnam War. Like that is the stuff that is interesting to me. So that is what I've been trying to focus on, is like telling those jokes that are more personal,
That's awesome.
I mean, and I would say as far as like improving and stuff too, saying it like with confidence, be like, no, this is me. And even if you don't get it exactly, like you're still going to laugh at it type
I think
thing.
that's the key, right? Because it's like it's tough when you get into kind of niche areas. Like sports you're going to connect with a lot of people, right? History, maybe, right? Depending on where you are, where you're playing, like it just is the way it is. Like you may be throwing out jokes about Napoleon where people don't really know they don't know that much. They know Napoleon, like they know like a Napoleon complex. He was a little like general who like
isn't it the short
crushed,
guy? Like,
yeah, like he like crushed it as a general, but that's it. Like
yeah, no, you're very right. So yeah, I think again I've just been trying to learn or just get better at saying those things with conviction and being like, I believe this, and even if you don't get it, I'm gonna get you to get it.
Yeah,
type of thing.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. Well, you're on tour right now. You're doing this headlining tour.
yeah,
Um,
first one.
Cool.
Yeah, first mini tour.
Well, I'm looking forward to tonight, man. Excited for that. Thank you for playing here, and I'm looking forward to seeing where you're gonna go, dude. I think your stuff is awesome. So we'll leave links down below for sure. But where can people find more about you and about your tour dates coming up? And
Yeah, well, first off, I really appreciate you guys having me. Like I said, this is my first kind of mini tour doing these, just kind of doing these one-nighters in cities. So it's a cool stepping stone. I'm super pumped for tonight. I love Chicago. I love being here. Like, again, growing up in Ohio, we'd go here pretty frequently. Like, it's just so fun to be here. So pumped for tonight. As far as where you can find me and stuff, Instagram at Nate Meeker, TikTok at Nate.Meeker. Like, you can find me there. And in my bios is my link tree with all like my ticket links and everything there. And that's where there's like I have a mailing list. So if you want me to come to your city and it's not been listed yet, sign up for the mailing list and tell me where to go.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Nate. And we'll have an awesome show tonight and look forward to having you back.
Yeah. Thanks again, Ryan. Can't wait.
All right. Thanks, man.